So not everything I'm going to be talking about is Python specific. There is plenty of Python stuff, but there's also just general dev stuff. So I guess one of the things that I have gotten a lot of value out of is right up on the screen right now. It's Vim, or NeoVim in particular. How many people here use Vim or NeoVim or something derivative? Yeah, quite a few. That's cool. Oh, okay, reluctantly. All right. Right, so why is Vim so good? If you've never used Vim, I'll do a little bit of a tour. How's that? Is that good at the back? Right. So here's some Python code. Oh, hang on. I'm going to do something else first. I had to reboot my computer, so all the state is gone. I'll do that. Right, better. So, looks like an editor. I've got something else. Screen key. Now you can see what I'm typing. Yay, look at that. Right, so, it's got some strange ways of moving around. You can use the arrow keys, but normally you would use J and K to move around and H and L to move left and right, which is odd, but what's good about that is it keeps your hands on the home row, so you're not moving around the keyboard all the time. But how does that work, Menno? Aren't those letters we normally type? Vim and VI and VI is the original, but there's all the derivatives. They are a modal editor. So by default, you're in normal mode, which lets you move around and run commands and things. But if I actually want to type, I need to type a key to get me into that, which is I for insert, and then escape to get back out again. Okay, I'm not going to give you an in-depth tour of Vim, but I'll show you some cool stuff. So it has this sort of command language that once you get to know it, it becomes second nature, and it's very composable. So once you learn the basics, you can start pulling together things and guessing really powerful operations. So for example, say this map up here, I want to change the inside of it completely. Like I could do something like, let's hit delete lots of times, like a caveman. But I could just go change in brace, and then I'm already in insert mode. So I don't know if you can see down the bottom the last few things I typed. So C, I, and then so C means change, I means in, so inside something, and then the next character you type will tell Vim the kind of thing. It can be all the different types of brackets, parentheses, it can be quotes, it can be all sorts of things, and it will just operate on that object. They're called text objects. So I can say I just wanted to do that. What else is cool? Anything you do can be repeated really easily. So say I went 2DD to delete 2 lines, and then I hit dot, another 2 go, and another 2 go, and another 2 go. And that counts for inserting text as well. Any operation, it will just repeat the last thing, which you end up doing heaps as a developer. You often make a change, you need to make the same kind of change on the next line and the next line and the next line. And so you just go down, dot, down, dot, down, dot, done. What else? Often as a developer, it's quite handy to be able to move between sort of blocks of text that have blank lines between them. So VI has, or Vim at least, I don't think this is in the original VI, has like the brace key. If you move, see how I'm jumping between every blank line, which is, I find, a thing I end up doing quite a lot. So it's a quick way of moving around between blocks of code. And I mean, there's a lot. This is just a few little teasers. I'll show you some of the extensions, like NeoVim and Vim are very extensible. So I use a few things a lot. I think as a developer, no matter what editor or IDE you're using, you want some sort of fuzzy file opener. Like you don't want to be going file, open, navigate. Like you want to just be able to hit a key, start typing a bit of the file name, and then bang, you're in the next file. Because as developers, we're moving between files all the time. So I use a very popular extension for NeoVim called Telescope. And it is fuzzy binding for files, for open buffers, for everything. And it's very extensible in itself. So for example, if I hit comma F, there's not many files in this project, but I can start typing just a part of the name. You can even do things like type a bit and then type something at the end, like see how it's matching the SRC and then the app, but all I had to just type was just a few of the characters in the name, and then I hit enter and I'm in. You can also do cool stuff like just type a part, say I want all the Python files, and then I can push Control Q, and then they end up in this thing called the quick list, which is a really powerful concept in Vim. It's basically a list of matches. You can have your grep results ending up there if you're doing like searching across the file, across the project. And so, yeah, once you have stuff in there, you can do lots of operations on it. So if you want to pick a certain subset of files or matches when you're doing searching, you can send it to the quick list and you can do lots of bulk operations on them. And as well as just jumping between them, like if I just want to quickly jump between the matches, that's also a thing. Right, get rid of that. Right, the telescope, really cool. Oh yeah, live grep is the other thing. So, as developers, we're often doing sort of textual searches through our project. And so telescope has this thing called live grep. You can just start typing. So say if I want to find all the function definitions, def space. And again, I can either just go to one of them and there I am, or I could use that, sort of collect them up, and then I can sort of jump between them or do some bulk operation on those matches. And that this is NeoVim specific, but I think if you're using VS Code or whatever, you want something like this that lets you very quickly in a keyboard-driven way, with fuzzy searching, quickly jump between things. It's a game changer. Thinking more. Oh yeah, this is cool as well. So I use an extension called Flash, which, let's make this a bit fairer. So it basically lets you with a few keystrokes jump to anywhere that you can see on the screen. So if I hit comma comma, and then I say I want to get to that value at the bottom, so to VA, and see how it's put a little S next to it. That's like, if I hit S, then I jump there. If I want to, let's do that again. And so even if I just type the V, there's only one capital V visible, so I can already jump there straight away. Say I want to jump to subtract down there. Oop. Typing sideways, yeah, bang. And you can also use that for selection. So you can start a selection, use the comma comma and jump to somewhere else, and then you get a selection from where you were to the exact thing that you wanted to match to, to select to. So super cool. Surround, yeah. So this is another extension that is for Vim and NeoVim, and it's called Surround, and it lets you quickly change things that have pairs. So say these square brackets, so these round brackets here, I want them to be square brackets. So I just go S, surround, replace, I've got to be fast. S, surround, bang. So I've changed that. You can see the keys I typed at the end there. SR changed the round brackets to square brackets, and it's gone and done that. I often find myself using that kind of functionality when I'm in Python and I'm changing like a dictionary to a list or something like that, or sets to dicts or things like that. It's quite useful to be able to quickly change things around. All right, Python. So we all like, being able to jump to symbol. I think that is probably one of the most important things in any editing environment, any IDE. If you're using VS Code, you've got the Python support built in, installed. You get that for free. For other editors, you probably, unless you're using JetBrains, you're probably relying on an LSP, which is a language server. And who knows what a language server is? Yeah, some. So yeah, I guess if you're using VS Code, you probably don't even think about it, but it's using LSP under the hood as well. It was invented by Microsoft for VS Code. It's basically a protocol that allows an IDE, that is an LSP client, to talk to LSP servers which know everything about a particular language in terms of how to parse the code, how to jump to symbols, how to order imports, how to format the code, all that kind of stuff. So you'll have the idea being that instead of every IDE implementing support for a particular language, like over and over. So, we've got IDE 1, we've got Python support, Rust support, JavaScript support there, and then another IDE gets developed and they then have to repeat the same process. The idea was that you could just have that work done once and just have one really good LSP for each language that can be shared by all the editors, all the IDEs. And so NeoVim has built-in support for LSPs, and it's already set up here. I'm using, it's one from Microsoft called Pyrite. And basically, it's the open source version of what's in VS Code, which is actually proprietary. The Python support in VS Code is proprietary and has some secret source. And unfortunately, it's better. It's better than the open source one. The open source is kind of the basis of it. But it works pretty well. So, I can go GD here and find some definitions for that function. It's found multiple. It's because it's got these type packages. Yep. But let's say, what's JSONify? Right there. So it's gone and jumped into Flask and found all the docs and everything for this thing. I can also, you can notice how to pull up documentation for things. So I can, get that. Yeah, so, sorry? Yes, I can't remember how I don't use it much for Python. I use it a lot for Rust. And to be honest, we're going to get to the fact that I don't use NeoVim nearly as much as I used to, because VS Code has some advantages. So yeah, a lot there are ways to show type information as well. If it's available, works better in languages that are, more strict with their typing, like Go or Rust, but also works for Python. And it will also highlight problems. So like if I refer to say if I go b equals x, x doesn't exist. Yeah, it's telling me that's the LSP figuring out that, hey, x doesn't exist. You've got a problem, and then you can pop up what the problem is, and and you can also like jump. So if I'm well over here and I've got it set to GN, I can just jump between all the problems that are in the code. So if I'm working on something and I know that there's going to be stuff broken, I can just quickly jump through all the problems. So yeah, there are lots of LSPs for Python. There's not just one obvious winner. Pyrite is one of the better ones, but there is also PyLSP, and there's one that's getting a lot of attention at the moment, but it's still very new, from Meta, called Firefly. And it's based on an earlier project from Meta, but it's like the next evolution of that. It actually looks like it could end up being really, really good, but right now it's still a bit alpha. I gave it a try and it wasn't too amazing. What else have we got? Yeah, it's nice to have Git integration. I'm pretty comfortable and happy using the command line sort of Git, but I do use this thing called Fugitive, which is very popular. Lets me see changes, and then hang on. I don't know what this reckons there's a change. I don't think there is. Let's make one. Okay, different file. Right. So I can see changes. I can just stage just chunks. If I've made a bunch of code and I want to actually split them into multiple commits, you can do that here quite easily. But what I really like about it as well is that it's a very thin wrapper on the command line. So any git command I can just run, go G, and I can go, reset, live dangerously. So I hope I just didn't delete my client code. No, we're good. So, I can not leave Vim and still do all the Git things I'm used to. It's also, got some nice functionality for viewing logs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Fugitive is a big win. There's also Harpoon, which is quite nice. Like when you're developing, you often find when you're working on a particular task, you're jumping between like a handful of files, maybe 2 or 3 files, maybe implementation, another bit of implementation, some tests, and you're constantly moving between them. And that's, even if you've got the sort of fast, fuzzy jumping between buffers or you've got tabs or whatever, you wish you could sometimes be a bit faster. As I use this thing called Harpoon. It's by the famous YouTuber, the Primogen. It's his thing. And then, what you end up doing is type a key to add it to the sort of the buffer of the current list of files you're interested in. We'll just open something else as well. And so I've got these 2 files on the list, and then I can just go comma 1, comma 2, comma 1, comma 2. I can just jump between them all day. You quickly built up a mental model of the say 3 files in which number they correspond to. It's kind of a very fluid way of having some on ad hoc jumps between files, which is quite nice. And then when you're done with, you can just remove them from the list. And then, when you get onto the next thing, add the next set of files in, and you jump between them really quickly. So Harpoon's also got some functionality I don't use for tmux integration. That is all the Vim stuff I wanted to talk about. Right, so we've got a little project here. And I've talked about UV in past meetups, but yeah, UV is another tool that I think every Python developer should be using. So in this case, I've got a pyproject.toml, which is just listing the dependencies for this little demo project I've got. And, I can really quickly make sure that all the dependencies are installed, which they should be. Bang, super fast. Even if I did that from scratch, so let's just wipe out the virtual environment. What version? I'm probably using 1.12. Yeah. If I do that, I could have done that in one command. Super fast, way, way faster than like pip would have been.
Did you enter in a virtual environment before you did your UV stuff?
No, so UV by default always puts things in .vm, so a hidden folder in the current directory, and so it's just become the place where it puts its stuff. Yeah, so you don't enter the virtual environment. You never have to enter the virtual environment if you're happy to type UV run before everything. But you can also just enter the virtual environment. Then activate. Now I'm in that virtual environment that UV created, and then I can, if I run Python now, it'll run the one in the virtual environment. But when I'm out of the virtual environment, Python is, Python is the system one. So, right. So in here, I've got a little program that I've created, which we can, I wanted to show PySpy in particular. But first, before we get to that, VS Code. So I talked about how wonderful NeoVim was, but it turns out these days I'm not using NeoVim that much anymore. And the reason is that at work, I do a lot of working on code on other hosts. Like I have a MacBook that's my laptop, but a lot of the stuff I run only works on Linux, and I've got a Linux VM in our grid. And I used to always just run NeoVim on that Linux VM, and that was all right. But latency always bugged me. Like, it was always unpleasant to work on the VM because you type and it would always be a bit slow. And then I was visiting London, working with my colleagues, and they were raving about how good the remote SSH support in VS Code is, and I gave it a try, and it's bloody amazing. So sorry. So annoying. So so you can just go say open a file. In fact, I could probably do it. I've got VS Code open, and I can open one at home, I think, if my VPN is up. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Sure. This is all one-off setup that you don't normally have to do. I just haven't done this from this computer. So see if, look at that. Yeah, it's working. So now I'm connected to a system at home. It's installing the remote VS Code support on it because I haven't done it there before. This is risky.
You sacrificed a demo god.
Yeah, I was already pushing it. This may not work. Who knows? But basically, yeah, look at that. Oh no. No, that's low. That's
down on the bottom left. It says it's connected to Claude.
It does.
Couldn't fetch the remote.
But the files that's showing me at the top are not on that server.
Does it use like an SSH and type of thing?
Yeah, no, what it does is that it uses SSH, and then it goes and installs some code, basically some services running on the remote machine, which communicate over SSH back to your IDE. And so the experience is really good. So you just open a file, but when you open, you see the files on the remote server, and everything just works as if the code was on your local machine. And editing is super, super fast. You hit save, and it's automatically pushed to the other end, and it's there really, really quickly because it's an active connection. It's not like you're SCPing every time you make a change. The connection's already there, so it's quite fast.
Essentially managed. The JetBrains did the same. Like they managed to split the IDE into the host and client, like thin client.
Yep.
Parts.
But all your extensions and custom configuration, everything just works. So it's pretty neat. Yeah, that's not working though, is it?
Code does some interesting smoke and mirrors to hide the latency.
Yeah.
It's really slick.
Yeah, I think it doesn't. I think it copies stuff to your machine while you're editing it. I think. Not sure.
It just chooses when to send the data.
Yeah, but it worked. It was the killer feature for me. It works really, really well. And the other cool thing is I didn't need to give up on NeoVim. So there is a amazing VS Code extension. So NeoVim can be, you normally run it from the terminal, but it can also be run in a headless mode and is intended to be integrated into other pieces of software. So there's a NeoVim extension which takes advantage of that feature. And so you get the VS Code, UI, but it's actually all the editing work is being done by NeoVim. And all your NeoVim extensions, for the ones that don't do anything too visual, still work. So this VS Code right here is so remember that flash thing I showed you that you jump to anywhere on the screen? Still works here. So right. And so all my customizations, keystrokes, everything, there's a bit of monkeying around to get it all working really nicely, but you end up having to do a lot of, there's a way in NeoVim's config for it to detect that it's running inside VS Code. So anything you don't want enabled or want to behave differently, you can kind of conditionally turn off and stuff. But it wasn't hard. And so I haven't had to completely give up on NeoVim, even though I've turned to the dark side. Yeah, so pretty neat. And, it's got all the lovely things like, terminal built in, which I quite like. And that even works with remote SSH as well. So when you're editing files and blah, 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 you want to test some code, you just jump to the terminal and run your code over there. It's pretty cool. And the other thing, I found myself preferring, even locally when I'm not doing remote editing, doing Python code, VS Code is definitely a winner, just because PyLounce is that much better. Way fewer false positives with type errors and things like this. It's just better at figuring stuff out than Pyrite. And they've clearly done that on purpose to get people using VS Code and get them to stay there. They knew they had an advantage, and Python's so popular. It was worth them doing that. So, yeah.
So if you're running in this way inside VS Code,
yep.
Which language server is it using?
It's using I've got the language server support turned off in NeoVim. It's just using
But if you had it turned on,
it will still. I don't think it works. Yeah, I think
it's just editing.
You get all the good bits of VS Code and all the good bits of NeoVim. Is really how it works.
So when you point VS Code, point the extension to your NeoVim config, what sort of thing doesn't work?
What doesn't work?
Yeah.
Things that don't work, like Fugitive, that thing I showed you, the Git integration, because it opens up buffers and does a lot of visual things. There's also a bunch of NeoVim extensions or plugins that like pop open. Like NeoVim has support for popping up dialog boxes and things like that. None of that works in VS Code. So, and in fact, can mess things up a bit. So, yep, all the syntax highlighting, all the LSP stuff, everything is all VS Code, but the core editing stuff is all NeoVim. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another cool thing about Flash. You can. Ooh, no, that's not big. It doesn't matter. Has anyone heard of Tree Sitter? So Tree Sitter is this amazing C library that knows how to parse code really efficiently. And NeoVim uses that. It's built in. And so you can use it to drive functionality like semantic selection. So say I want to select maybe we don't bother about that because that's not working. I must have turned it off. No, it's not nearly as impressive. Oh, no, there it is. See how there's like letters have appeared? Like there's a around, see before the def, an A is turned up, and an A is turned up here. So basically if I hit A, then that becomes the selection. If I'm in here and I did it, yeah, this is more interesting. So I could push A and just have that bit selected, or I could do D and then just have the whole inner selected, or I could do E and have the whole try block accepted, or have G. And the reason that works is it's using Tree Sitter. So it's parsing, it's got a Tree Sitter parser for Python, and it automatically loads the parser for the language you're editing, and then lets you do like semantic operations. It's also used for better quality syntax highlighting. The default syntax highlighting in Vim is regex based, which is terrible and can get slow. The Tree Sitter stuff is much more accurate, much more specific, so you can get better quality syntax highlighting, which is what it's also being used for. But yeah, it's really nice for these selections where you just want to, grab this whole block or this whole function, and even if it's not, fully visible, like say we're in main here, it'll kind of, go right to the end, hit A, and then I've got that all selected. I can copy it and then go and paste it somewhere else or move it or whatever I wanted to do, delete it. Okay, so I knew there was something else I wanted to show. Right, now some more Python-y things. PySpy. So I've made this little dummy program. All it does is implement a little API server. I'm going to run it. Yeah, cool. So if you go to the root, I'm going to close that because we don't need that anymore. So this is the endpoints. Like if you go to the root of it, it tells you what the API is. So you can just do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Really silly. I just needed something. And there's a command line client for it too. So I'm going to client add 1, 2. Hey, pretty neat, huh? Right. So that is, nice. And now I've intentionally introduced some bugs. So, what's going on there? Why did division take so long? It's computers can definitely divide faster than this, and it's repeatable. So what's going on? Now, say this was a much more complicated system. Like, what would you do? Like, as a developer, if this was something you're responsible for, and the API is going really slowly, what are some tools that you might consider?
Read the logs.
Yeah, exactly.
Traces.
Look at if you had them. Yes, I know. Yeah. Well, one thing that has saved my ass several times at work is this awesome tool called PySpy, and PySpy can connect to any running Python process and tell you exactly what's going on inside it, where it's spending its time, even if there was, even if you hadn't like instrumented the program at all, it will still work. I'm pretty sure the way it works is it knows the memory layouts of how objects look in memory and everything for each major Python version, and knows how to kind of pull apart where the stack is and what Python function it's in. Yeah, it's really cool. So what we're going to do, the client has this thing called spam. Hang on, it needs 2 numbers. Doesn't matter. So this is just going to keep calling the API, and while we're doing that, just to keep it busy. What was we need the process identifier, which conveniently I have it printing out, and then we're going to do use PySpy. You give it the process ID that you want to watch of the Python program, and then it does need elevated privileges. And then it's going to start telling me where time is being spent. I'll just leave it running for a little bit, and hopefully something will come out. You'll notice that it's already spending more time in divide than anywhere. So, okay, cool. And multiply also seems a bit slow. I forgot to show that multiply is also slow, and it's for a different reason. So what's cool is you get a line number right. So let's have a look at app 65. And we use VS Code. Oh, look at this, the damn intern. For the multiply case, it seems to be trying the multiplication of 1 billion times and confirming that it always gives the same answer because the intern was being careful. So that is why that is slow. So we can fix that. That should do it. The server will restart itself. I hope. Maybe it did already. Don't know. Right. And now, is it faster? I don't know if that restarted. Let's. Cool. Yay! Now it's fast again. Now we haven't fixed the division problem yet, so let's have a look at that. Process ID has changed, so we need a new one. And we'll just keep spamming, generate some traffic. Let's see, so divide, line numbers. So line 81 seems to be where things are being spent. Because remember, it's running all the operations, but only divide is showing up as being particularly slow, that line and divide. What was it? 81. Oh yeah, that might be it. So delete that and restart. And spam again. And now everything's going much faster. Problem fixed. Now the other cool stuff you can do is you can record flame graphs. So pre-grab. Yep. I didn't catch the, that's probably that one. So it samples the program 100 times a second, looking at where things were running, and records it. And then when I stop it, it's written a flame graph. Right. Let's close that. Right. So there's, who's not familiar with flame graphs? Not familiar. Wow. Cool. Excellent. Well, this is like one of the best ways, like lots of tools in lots of ecosystems that do sort of profiling of code will produce this kind of output. And what it does is break down sort of the call trees, and like the wider the bar, the more time is being spent in that part of the code. So you can see at the top, you've got the all bar, which means everything, the entire program. So that should take up the full width. And then after that, you can see that some time is being spent over here, and then the rest is being spent under here. So you can see this chunk here looks like it's sort of request handling, parsing of headers, which is quite a bit of the time. And over here is a bit of socket handling. This is probably the listening loop. And over here, don't know, but you can click into one of these and expand it. It's amazing what you can do with an SVG. This is just a static SVG file. You can pull it apart. And so you can see there's quite a bit of time spent in logging there. And this is emitting, so because we fixed the bugs, the multiplication and division bugs aren't showing up like they were before. Not even sure where, maybe it's here. No, that's writing to the socket. But yeah, this is like really handy if you've got a performance problem, and you've got a tool like SpySpy or Go's profiling stuff does this as well. There's lots of tools that make this kind of thing. It's super, super useful because you often end up seeing one very wide section that you weren't expecting, or a very deep section, like where there's a really deep cool tree and it like this big icicle almost, or flame, that shows you where all the time is being spent. But yeah, does that make some sense? So yeah, I mean, this tool like has gotten me out of some really serious production issues where people are screaming at you and like, we can't get our work done, this is costing us money. And being able to quickly look at where the time is being spent and it's seeing something unexpected and then go, okay, that gives you enough of a clue to start debugging in a sensible direction. It's really, really handy.
Do the colours mean anything?
Good question. Not sure. They probably do. I don't know if it's just to distinguish them from each other.
It seems like it's categorizing them
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it stuff that you've written versus the...
No, I don't think it distinguishes between like dependencies in your own code because it wouldn't know. It's just you're just pointing at an arbitrary Python process. It doesn't know where the code comes from. So yeah, I'm not sure. I would have thought like red would mean stuff that's taking more time. It could be how much time is being spent in itself, like, because you have the concept of how much time is this plus everything it called spent, and there's also how much time does the actual thing itself take without accounting for any of its children, anything else it called. So it could be like a red color means that a lot of the time is being spent within that function rather than.
Like yellow's waiting for the thing below.
Yeah, I would say so. That's my guess, but I'd have to look it up to be sure. Okay, I've got a few other things, but I'm quite happy for anyone else who wants to talk about anything they do.
What I thought I would show now is maybe a completely live, made up demonstration of using Gemini and Claude to do something. So I have a app here which I wrote for my daughter and her friends to learn basic ciphers. It happens to be a pure TypeScript app, but I promise you these LLMs are kind of equivalent at TypeScript and Python and probably Go, and then they kind of get a bit worse in some of the other languages. And I thought maybe I'll just open it up and show you a little bit of how I might add something to this app. So maybe to start with, we could run it. I'll just follow the instructions which a LLM wrote for me previously, which says localhost 5173 and is running. And if I go here, I should have checked that I'm on a branch that actually works. I have a UI. It looks like I've got some sort of way to change a theme. Let's go for emoji themes. And I can look at ciphers. There are 3 configured here, and this was to teach basic transformation cipher, the Caesar shift cipher here. So I can have my dad is really cool, and encrypt that. And we did this on a weekend away, looking through with an animation to actually show what was happening as well. I didn't write any code for this entire thing. It was an evening with Claude saying what I wanted, and I got this out. And I thought it'd be nice to maybe add something to this app live.
Probably not on the internet.
That's probably fine. Not for Claude.
Yeah.
Let me hotspot. I'm hotspotted. I am. That's fine. Cool. Okay. So let's jump back into PyCharm. This is a standard TypeScript app. There's heaps of code. If I use one of my favorite extensions, I just right-clicked all of the components, the entire library here, and went copy file to clipboard. 70 files copied, estimated tokens 47,000. Now, for reference, Gemini can handle about 1 million tokens, and at about 200,000, it starts getting a bit dumb. So if you're well under that, under 100,000 tokens, keep adding. So we'll add some more context. It can probably deal with all of our app.tsx, maybe whatever our hooks and routes are. Right click, copy file to content, still well under, that's fine. I'll add some of the top level things. Index, looks like someone wrote some LLM wrote some notes on deploying this. We'll give it the Claude file, the README file, and copy that to clipboard. So I've got 77,000 tokens now. I'm going to open my browser. I'm going to go to aistudio.google.com. I'm going to say, we are working on a kids education app. It probably could work this out. Let's add a new, do we want to add a theme or a cipher? A cipher. Let's add a new cipher. Let's add an advanced one. RSA. Here is our current code. Come up with a plan for a SWE to implement. And then we are just going to copy our entire 77,000 tokens, give that to Gemini 2.5 Pro and say, just come back. That's maybe not going to be a perfect plan straight away. Obviously depends on the context, depends on what that README had and all the other information that it managed to get from, the somewhat random selection of files I happen to include. It doesn't know our TS config, it doesn't know any of our tests, doesn't know some of the context or the utilities that are available, but it's probably got enough to work out roughly how this code base works. And I've given it, all 3 lines of what I actually want, and it'll go mull away for maybe a minute or so. Like Gemini's slow but quite good at thinking, and it should come up with a, I don't know, couple of pages or so of a plan. Sometimes it'll be like a phased approach. It's like, oh, this will take you 6 weeks. No, Claude's going to get this done in the next 15 minutes. It doesn't know that. So here we go. Adding RSA is a fantastic idea to introduce to kids. Modern blah, blah, blah. High-level ticket is split into 4 tasks: core logic, RSA-specific UI, main cipher page, and then integration with the app. Great. Obviously, if I was doing this not live in a probably very time-constrained mode, I would read through this. I would put this into my own editor. I would tweak it. I'd probably do a few iterations with Gemini here, because really the main part of my input is making sure the plan is solid and that I'm happy with it. We're just going to assume, for today's sake, that this is perfect. I've read it. I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about it. And so I'm just going to copy that entire markdown. And then we're going to jump back into PyCharm. We're running the dev server, it looks like, on 5173. And we're going to jump into Claude. So let's just go Claude, dangerously skip permissions, because I don't really want to asking, yes, are you allowed to grep for this thing?
This is where Skynet comes from.
Now, I just cloned this repo on this computer, so there is no Claude file. I haven't committed this one. So before I dump that project plan, which probably would be okay, I'm just going to say there's kind of 2 ways to do this. I could give it some prompt myself to give it some context, like go explore this project, tell me about it, tell me how this is designed, what technologies it uses, or there's built-in commands to Claude. There's one in it, which will essentially just a little markdown prompt that will say, hey, go explore this code base and write a claude.md file. And we'll see this in I don't know, it's got 5 tasks. It'll go and write a README specifically for agents, specifically for Claude, to use this app. And it's going to look at the README. It's going to be like, oh, well, we use NPM. Everything's in the app directory. Hopefully, it will look at the actual code and understand how I want things structured, and the technologies that I'm already using. It's looked at the package.json, so it should get that context. And this is going to help with the future task when, in about 30 seconds, I'm just going to give it that entire 5-phase plan from Gemini. Be like, go ahead and do that, would you? And we'll see how it goes. Before I do that task, though, I want to show you a tip that I have found super useful in the few times I do front-end development. I'm normally back-end, but the MCP server from Microsoft for Playwright is just game-changing. I can ask Claude here, once it's done, I'll let it finish, but I can ask Claude to open its own browser that we have dual control of. It can see stuff, I can see stuff. I can log into my app. I can click things and then say, hey, what do you see? Can you write a test for this? Can you manually QA this thing? Or can you see what's currently wrong with the console go work it out for me, for example. Give it.
That's pretty good.
It's amazing. In fact, we can do that in the background.
Can you sort of demo things you'd like it to automate, like tests? Can it watch you do something and then create an automated test?
Yeah. Can it record from that? I'm not sure if it has that functionality. Let's ask it. Open a browser to.
Playwright is like a modern, better version of Selenium.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Why is it?
That's not a high bar, though.
It's not a high bar.
Selenium was pretty terrible. Yeah.
Play what you say.
Okay, so I didn't open the browser. The Claude code opened the browser because I told it to do so. Let me.
How did you tell it to open the browser?
I said open a browser to localhost port 5173 and tell me what you see. And so it used the MCP server for Playwright, which I'd previously configured. And it says the browser shows Kids Code Club application running, displays user profile selection, blah, blah, blah. So that's working just fine. Let me expand this a bit. Okay, and so the init has now finished. Claude is now ready. Let's just dump the 200 lines from Gemini and let it cook. Depending on how you've set up your user level Claude instructions, it could be very cautious and, get user input at every step. Or it could be super vibe code mode where it's just like, I'll just make decisions, I'll do my best, and I won't annoy you. And it could run for an hour or something on a task like this for a while. I tend to lock it down a little bit more than that, and I'll do feedback loops with myself reviewing particular functionality, with Gemini reviewing functionality, and I'll get it to write tests. So use Playwright, manually QA a cipher, and we can run these in parallel. So I can say, check that you can select user J, use the Caesar, spell that wrong, Caesar cipher, and encrypt a secret message. Tell me if it works. It can go, hopefully, if I go across to Chrome, the Playwright browser that it's controlling, we should be able to see it do this. And of course, we're also running in parallel this other one doing the 5 tasks of implement RSA for us.
Do you have to be a bit careful not to give them tasks where they start fighting each other?
Yeah.
So what have you got running in your 3?
The first one is a hot module reloading normal NPM server, which it could have started and ran itself, but I just happened to check that the app worked before coming up here in this branch. And then we've got Claude trying to come up with a working RSA education app for us, like module.
So it's building that on top of
It's building that hopefully using the framework that I've got. It looks like it's using the components I've already got, like I'm using Intent UI buttons and cards and components. So a lot of that initial Claude exploration that it did should have helped it to do that, constrained it to copy the style of the existing repository. And in our third tab, it's just testing out the app for us. So going through, it's unlocked an achievement. It's encoded its first, it was pretty lame, secret message. And what about decryption? That's fine. Hopefully it can, summarizing. Let's watch the RSA one while it's hopefully testing the decryption. So it's on task 2 and 3. Claude can spin up sub Claude instances because Claude itself has an MCP server and it can call itself. So if it thinks work can be parallelized, it will do so. Or you can explicitly say like, hey, do this in parallel. So it could actually be working on a couple of things for us at once without being in multiple terminals. I find my cognitive load can't handle much more than 2 or 3 at once. Like usually they have to be on separate projects and then you just check in every 5-10 minutes. Let's have a look at what was done. I might exit presentation mode just so I can select the files again.
It's like managing
It's a
small,
different
very
job.
fast
Yeah,
development team.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so it looks like it's added a dependency of JS big integer, just spying on it from the outside, like the files that have changed. We can have a look at, obviously it will summarize and I can ask it about what it's done and why it's done it, or I could have read the plan. Usually I would have actually had something to do with the plan. But since we're just doing this a little bit more live, let's just choose the files from the diff this time. So in PyCharm, I can go create as patch to clipboard for a subset of files. And again, this is just trying to make things really friendly for going between LLMs. Some of these are built into PyCharm, some of these are extensions that I've added. Review this change set. So we're now at 168,000 tokens. Like that's the input previously, this input and the output. I still expect Gemini to do really well here, and the models are just getting better and better that come out, next month, month after. But that's the entire change set so far that Claude has done. And, we'll give it 30 seconds. Gemini is going to be like, you're not finished. But hopefully it's got some critical feedback. Like, oh, I see what you're doing there, but it might be wrong, might be in the wrong direction, might have got the math wrong.
So tokens is not context, it's the output.
Tokens is both input and output. It's the measurement that we use for LLMs, essentially. Like how much they take is really just a one-dimensional thing. Input and output is cost differently, but it's really on the same spectrum, and it's measured in tokens, which are chunks of words. Excellent work on implementing the RSA cipher. This is a significant addition, and it's been executed thoroughly, thoughtfully, keeping the educational goal for kids in mind. Overall assessment, this is a high quality implementation. So Gemini is impressed with what Claude has done so far, probably because it's following its own instructions. It's logically separated, blah, blah, blah. And then some suggestions for improvement. Now, obviously the developer in the loop can really help massage this again, but take that back to Claude and be like, oh, let's go revisit, let's test that thoroughly before we go on to the next phase. Let's see if it's added the new cipher yet. RSA, there we go.
When you're interacting with Gemini, what are you using there?
AI Studio from Google. Gemini.google.com also works, but they nerf the input context to 50,000 tokens or something, similar to ChatGPT. Tip for you, if you're using ChatGPT, you can't actually paste that much content into the chat, but the models for ChatGPT for the better ones, O3 Pro, whatnot, they actually can handle a lot more. So you just have to break it into chunks of 20,000 or whatever your account lets you do. But you can keep going. It might just be 5 copy pastes instead of 1, and be like, don't reply until I give you the, some command. Yeah, that's a separate way to do it as well. I'm not actually that familiar with if that is the same budget or a different one. No idea if this will work, but let's have a look. No, not yet. Let's see if it thinks it's done, because that often it will take longer than I want to demonstrate live to do something as much as this. But it will probably quite happily keep going on that for 15 minutes, especially this Claude. I haven't pointed at the Playwright MCP implementation, like the tools. It could start using it. It could be like, oh, I could debug this myself. But usually it needs a bit of a nudge in the right direction. Be like, don't ask me if it works. Go verify it yourself.
Have you got some user level instructions in there for Claude? I noticed it was linting stuff.
Yes, definitely. And it definitely pays to spend a while thinking about what you want it to do all the time. And I've got custom instructions like an MR description or self-review as well. Well, that's getting a bit screwed up. I should have used this one. So say self-review is just a markdown snippet I've got in my user level Claude directory for how I would like it to do a review of a code base I happen to be in. And so it's doing a diff against main. I don't actually care if it's been committed or not. It's just, and then instructions for the review. But whatever you want is important to you. And yeah, similarly for my overall instructions are, try to verify things before you tell me they're successfully implemented. Any questions on Claude or Gemini? Yeah, Pete.
Companies and those with Claude is one, it sort of gives up easily. Two, it sometimes says it's finished when it hasn't. Then ticks it off its to-do list.
Yep.
So what do you do?
I still run into it far more often than I'd really like, even with user level Claude, even with a project level Claude where I'm like, you must verify your changes. I might lie and say that we do test-driven development at work, and that it should always write tests before it does things, and try to steer it in that direction more. But often that's my part. I'm like, why don't you lint format, build, compile, do the thing, and I just give it a wee reminder. It's a bit annoying. I'm sure we'll fix that fairly soon. Yeah. Okay. It thinks it's done. I am holding my breath slightly. I doubt it.
So how much does Claude give away? Not very much. In terms of how much.
Oh, that's a very good question. I am paying a lot.
Yes, I know you are. You told me last.
You get like, I don't know, it takes me about 20 minutes to blow through the daily allotment on Claude.
The free one.
Yeah. But if you're paying for what, Pro, I think it's like a couple $100 a month. And don't you get unlimited then? No, it's fine.
No, but it's time bound. So there's a fairly, you're paying quite a lot. I'm paying about $200 New Zealand a month for Claude access. And every 6 hours, it can be limited and you're locked out. And it will tell me I'll come back at 8 p.m. Usually, even with a couple in parallel, especially if you're doing, say, Rust development or development where your integration tests add quite a few minutes, it actually spreads it out enough that I most of the time get the 4 or 6 hours before I'm limited. And it will just come up with a little warning in the bottom right of Claude saying, you're approaching your usage limits.
Is it running multiple playwright tests? I see it's opening a whole lot of tabs.
Yeah, what is it doing? I wasn't paying enough attention to it. I have implemented Playwright visual tests that are completely concurrent, and it does 130 tabs at once and takes snapshots. It's probably run into that and trying to use it. It's actually now using a different port, so it started its own server. It didn't like mine. And yes, I see it's running an awful. I don't know. What I'd really like would be if it could resolve that before we are done. But in the interest of time, I think we'll leave it there. It's a really powerful tool. It's insane when you can combine the LLMs and the best of what they're good at, combine their strengths.
It's nice that you're using Gemini because it's basically free at the moment.
Yeah.
So you're getting all of those tokens and you're getting to use Claude.
Yeah.
Does Google have something like Claude Code, a command line code?
They do, and I've got that here. It is. So if I Gemini YOLO mode, it will put me into Gemini. This, I think, is this project doing anything? Yeah, and you can authenticate or connect it to Vertex AI credits, or I think there's 3 ways you can pay for it. And just using your personal account, you get a relatively decent free tier. Okay, so I was thinking for this, instead of using that Cypher app, I could just replicate what you did, but get the AI to do the math bot, use, say, Fast API.
Well, that sample program without the bugs I created using in 5 minutes with the client, command line client, and the server. It costs $1. But,
Create a project using, let's use Fast API, UV, TY, run TY. What else would we want? It should do math endpoints.
I did spend 1 sentence explaining the endpoints.
Yeah, we'll just give it math endpoints, see what it does. So this is using Gemini, not Claude. I really like Gemini. As I say, I use it from AI Studio. I find that really, really good. The Gemini command line tool, it often actually gives up, and it's like, it'll apologize to you, be like, I'm sorry for the frustrating experience, but I'm unable to proceed with this. It just can't use its tools. It most likely hasn't been fine-tuned to use the tools that it's got access to, like Claude has. And so even though it's probably a better model, Claude is much better at execution. Then again, if we if we have a look, it will have been able to do this. Simple Python project. I mean, it's created a fast API app straight out, including a client with Typer. So we get a CLI tool as a bonus. And we've got add, subtract, multiply, divide. So it's done the same thing straight away. And if I jump back to here and I ask for the stats, it's used 39,000 tokens, 27%, 10,000 of which were cached, so like part of the context from earlier, so you don't have to pay for them. No idea. What am I looking at? Actually, this is just the last turn. So we're actually just looking at here, 18 seconds and used 10,000 tokens. So that would cost very, very, very little from Google.
You're running out of time.
I'm running out of time. So let's say we're done. Thanks. Connect power now.
Has anyone else got anything they want to show off, or are we all talked out?
This is not something to show off, but some of you might saw Ryan's use of Obsidian up there. Use Obsidian.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had also
Oh, cool. Well, this is not like necessarily Python related, but I'm starting using LogSeq, which is similar to Obsidian, but there's no folder structure at all. And I really like that. And I just discovered you can create an app for VS Code or wherever to just to send all your notes, really. Do AI compare notes and then send a LogSeq thing, so you really don't have to take notes. And it's very handy.
Yeah, I use LogSeq for quite a while actually. LOGSEQ. It's really, really nice. But there are a few people that have seen that.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone, but that kind of workflow is just having AI do your notes. Like I do a daily summary of what we do today, and then it goes to my folder, because a lot of time I was spending just noting what I was doing. So anyway.
All right. Well, thank you all for your